nel mezzo del cammino di nostra vita. So in the middle of the road of our life, I found myself in a dark wood. Found myself in a dark wood. Now, what's the dark wood? Well, you can think about it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different levels. You can start with just the biographical. You can just start with your biography or his biography. So start with his. I found myself in dark wood. Well, did he find himself in a dark wood in 1300? Yes, he did. Absolutely. Politically, he was in trouble. So you can start with that. But he's thinking much more than that. He's thinking that in all our journeys of all our lives, we always hit a crisis of reconsideration, thinking things through, reconsidering one life. Where am I going? What am I doing? In the middle. And every book on psychology confirms this. Every school of psychology confirms this. Jungian therapy is all based on this. Jungian therapy has phases of your life, and then when you come into the Jungian therapist and they understand exactly where you are, you come in there and say, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. How old are you? I'm 35. Oh, well, okay, now you know exactly what's wrong. You're 35, right in the middle of the road of your life. Now, of course, we all who want to live 100 years, we're starting to have our middle at 50. So we're getting our crises later. But for him, it's a moment in the middle of the road of our life where he suddenly finds himself in dark wood. Finds himself in a dark wood. And it can be personally, it can be politically, it can be, in this case, theologically. Well, let's move to the big level then, the one that he's raising. In the middle of the road of his life, he found himself in a dark wood. Mi ritrovai per una selva oscura. What's the dark wood? Apart from the fact that he may be in trouble in his life, what else does it mean? The premise is that he finds himself in trouble, somehow in trouble. He's gotten off the straight road and he finds himself lost in a dark wood. Now, what's the dark wood all about in the poem? In the poem, it's about the condition of getting away from the good, getting away from God, getting away from the good, right road to personal salvation, to goodness, to rightness, the journey to God. You've gotten off that road. And there's a nice little three-letter word that people used, that used to use, nobody uses it anymore, called sin. That's the idea, that in the middle of the road of his life, he has journeyed off the road into a dark wood, and he's lost his way. And you can think about it in all those different ways. You can think about it as simply as in your own personal life. You probably have lost your way. Probably somewhere along the way, you have found yourself in a dark wood. I certainly have. I certainly could spend the rest of this evening telling you about it. I mean, I can give you all the details. Big dark wood. In our world, lots of times you call it depression. You know, we have friends who are in a depression right this minute. I bet some of you do. I bet you have a friend you're helping right this minute. And that's what it is. And that's exactly what it is in psychiatrists and all the different schools of psychiatry study it. And how do you get there and what happens? Well, it's all right here. That's what this is about. In the middle of the road, I've gotten into a dark wood. Now, let's just stop here and say a word about the literary form of this poem, which is usually called allegory. Now, don't worry anything about allegory tonight. We'll talk about it next week. It's very, very simple. There's nothing fancy to it, but it's just a simple thing. An allegory and a poem like this that's allegorical, it's one simple thing. It means that a line of text can mean many different things. That's all. That's all it is. It can mean lots of different things. The more meaning, the better. The more things you can attach to an image, the richer your poem is. And so Dante gives us a lesson in how you do it, which is you just keep adding and adding and adding and adding things. So here we are then on this first paragraph, Nel mezzo del cammino di nostra vita. I find myself, that's the reflexive verb, to find, trovar, you all probably know that word, trovar, in all the different languages, Spanish, French, trouver. So I found myself in a dark wood because I'd lost the straight way. How hard it is to tell Ah, quanto è dir, qual era, cosa dura, hard thing, cosa dura. It's a hard thing to speak of. So savage and dark and dense is this forest, which even when I recall it to you in this poem, because he's telling you about it, and remember now, he always knows and reminds you and is aware of and keeps you aware of the fact that he's the person telling you this story. So there'll be many places in the poem where he'll step out and talk to you. Break the fiction, we call it, which is the first time anybody's done this in literature. Breaks the fiction and talks to you. So there's a modern thing. If you're thinking, making a list of the things that are modern about Dante, there's one, big one. Because as you know, in 21st century books, authors talk to you all the time. They just, oh, well, I didn't mean to say that. I meant this. Well, here we have it. So hard is it to speak of what it was, that savage forest, that dense and dark, that when I bring it back, I'm afraid all over again. It's so bitter that death is hardly more severe. Well, what could that be? What could be worse than death? Sin. The condition of being the sinner who's removed from God, who's off the path, who's lost. Lost sheep. You've heard of lost sheep, right? Right? Well, if you're a lost sheep, you're off the path. You're in the dark wood. You're stuck. And you may never get out. And you may die in the dense, savage forest because you never find the right true path. So that's what he means. That to tell you about this is worse than death. Because being alive and being separated from truth and good is worse than being dead. But to retell the good that he discovered, I'll also tell everything else I saw. See? So I'm going to tell you all about this. I'm going to tell you about the good things that I've learned, and I'm going to tell about everything else. I cannot clearly say how I entered the wood. Number 10. Non so ben ridir, to retell. Come vantrai, how I entered in there. Tante era piena, I was so full of. Tante era piena di sonno, right? See that word? You all know that. Sonno, sleeping, sonora, sleeping. Sonno a quel punto, at that point. So what's that about? Why is he saying that to you? I can hardly remember how it all happened. I was sleepy. I was so full of sleep that I just fell off the path. What's that all about, that 10, 11, 12? Well, he's saying that we sin because lack of attention. See how simple that is. We do bad things because we weren't paying attention. Now, here's a whole ethic of this man and this idea of the world right here in this line, in these 3 lines, where he's saying most of our mistakes, most of our getting off the true path is because we weren't paying attention. And therefore, what he's recommending to us, if we want to be good, and if we want to get salvation, and we all do, right? Don't you all want to get salvation? Of course you do. We don't want to be in the dense, dark wood for the rest of your lives, stuck in the wood. Chris, you don't want to be in the, right? You don't want to be in the dark wood, right? So, if we want to avoid being stuck in the dark wood with those lost sheep, we have to pay attention. We have to stay alert. We have to pay attention. This is a very demanding ethic when you think about what he's saying all through the poem. This idea of how life is to be lived, it says you have to be attentive. You have to be sharp. You have to be watching what you're doing. You have to watch everything you do all day. You don't want to just stray off the path because you're lazy, and 3 or 4 people all day, you're mean to them. Pretty soon you don't even know how to be nice anymore. So you're straying off the straight path, and pretty soon you're lost in the dark wood. And the point of it is that the way we sin is through lack of attention, inattentiveness. That's how it happens. We're full of sin, and we don't pay attention, and we're in trouble. Now, we'll come back to all these wonderful lines later, but let's go forward to the meaning of all of this. Here's a summary of this whole world of Dante. Number 1, there's the idea that there's only one text, one book. You only need one book. Bible. The Jewish Bible and the Christian Bible, the Old and the New Testament. You need that. one text. And that one book sums up everything. That has the whole world, all of history, all of meaning, all of the past, and all of the future. So one book, one text, just the way we start out with him, and there's his picture on our panel, with his book. And when he writes his book and he tells his story, he's thinking about the Bible. He's thinking about the fact that he lives with this one book. So that's number one. So one great book, one great text. Number two, one story, one beginning and one end. There's creation at the beginning in the opening chapter of Genesis. There's last judgment at the end. And we all live along this one road. We're all on the road. We're on the road together. We're all on the same road, in the road, on the El Camino. We're all on the road together from one beginning to one end with one middle. And all of time is one big piece. It's one story. Creation, incarnation, Jesus, crucifixion, resurrection, everybody else living forward. It's God's creation on the move. So time stretches out in one great, huge narrative. No cycles, no repetitions, one creation, one salvation, one book, one story. God creates everything, and we all journey back to him, and that's the story. And all of time is holy. God's revelation is coming true in history, in time. Gid's story. Now, that's an unusual story, isn't it? Gid's story. I got to go and fix it. I can't do it now. Sorry, we can't stop the broadcast and have me run home and fix it. So it's going to be Gid's story tonight. Okay? But all of time is unity. All of Revelation is unified. All of the story and the plan is revealed and comes true. And everything is part of this one great divine pageant. Time, space, all under one roof, just in our painting here. One unity stretching out all humanity, all of nature, all animals, everything. Everything is like world of Noah's Ark. And there's one picture. That is, there's one great unified space, just the way our picture here of Dante suggests. A great unified world, a unified space. Time and space is knowable. There's no infinity. There's no black holes. There's no unknown, way far off. There are little tiny hints that there might be a few things that Dante's world doesn't know, just a little bit. But no idea of, we have to get in the ship and go like Columbus did. None of that. It's a world that they think they know. They know the limits, and that's it. And space is known, and its gradations, its order, its unity, its steps, it's all knowable. It's all understandable if we study our Aristotle, our Plato, and the other scientists. And most important of all, the assumption is God wants us to know it. Now, that's what the Greeks believed, and that's what all the scientific tradition believed, and Dante agrees completely that that's the truth. And if we look at the art of this moment, and that's why I use that word picture, if we look at the art, then the art tells us exactly this. One great story, one piece, one narrative with all the pieces in it. So think of a Gothic cathedral. You have sculpture, you have painting, you have architecture, you have piers, you have Greek piers, you have Gothic piers, you have spires, you have the stained glass window. All of these stories are unified in the Gothic cathedral, just exactly the way they are in Dante's poem. All these different pieces are brought together in the structure of his poem. And one piece here reminds you of another piece there. One color here reminds you of another color there. And you're constantly looking forward, and you're constantly seeing a piece and hearing an echo of another piece, and it comes together, and it comes together, and it comes together, and you journey forward. If you're in the Gothic cathedral, you come in the front door, you go down the main aisle, and you see things just the way you do in this poem, just the way you're going to journey through this poem. Passage after passage after passage after passage. Number 5, Judeo-Christian Hellenic tradition. Encyclopedism, I'm calling it. Encyclopedia, I don't know if that word exists, but it's encyclopedic, meaning bring it all together. bring it all together. Include everything. Include the Greeks. Include Aristotle. Include David. Include Abraham. Include Christ. Augustine. Everything all comes together under one roof, just the way the Gothic cathedral does. And so, number 6, Dante's Divine Comedy is exactly like those things we've just mentioned. It's encyclopedic. It's looking at the whole range of human experience. It's running through all the different experiences we have. It reminds you again and again of the Greeks and of the Jews. It reminds you of the Christian revelation. And then you journey on, you journey on, you journey on. You journey in time. He's always telling you where you are in the journey, so you're always reminded where the time is. And as he journeys on and on and on, it gets richer and richer and richer and richer, and piece after piece after piece is added to it and revealed. And so his poem, like the Gothic cathedral, like all the great masterpieces of the Middle Ages, is this spectacular panorama of all of creation.